Tuesday, 2:30 golf show from Osimone.com. Myself, Ben Raza, here with Tim Frank, Fantasy Golf Man. We're staying far east. We're going to Japan, though, for the first time ever for this show. First time, I don't want to say ever, but this is a new event on the PGA Tour, the Zozo Championship. This has to be right immediately in your top 5 favorite events, is it not?
I think so. Just because the name, I have no clue what the name means, involves. I don't know if it's the name of a company, a name of a city. I have no clue. Just right off the bat, that makes it more interesting than most of the other tournaments.
So, yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't think it's a city because this is in, I believe, Chiba, Japan. You mentioned before the show you Googled Zozo and mythical creature potential, which I need to get in the show, but I think it's a company of some sort. I have not dug into the origins of the sponsor.
Yeah, I was expecting it to be like some Japanese insurance company or something, and then I came up, there's like mythical beasts coming up and all kinds of crazy stuff. But
The Quicken Loans of Japan is what
yeah,
we're working with.
exactly.
I do want to say before we dive in, this is 78 non-cut, so we'll breeze through it. We'll get to everything. I see Chad already in full force. What's going on, fellas? We got a couple things. Our sponsor, FantasyDraft, as we always give them the shout out, still running, of course, rake-free fantasy, the only place that you can play. 100% of the entry fees going towards the payouts, which is just huge. If you haven't signed up, promo code AWESOMO, free 7-day trial, worth getting over there and checking it out, if not more. And the other thing, it is the start, Tim. I know you're not the biggest NBA guy, but NBA is here, and we are doing a giveaway for the opening night. You got to go find our tweet up on the Awesemo page, like it, reply, and retweet. And all you have to do is guess the combined raw points between Kawhi and LeBron tonight. So it's a free roll. Go get it. And you can win a season-long pass if you get it right. So why not? We have
The Spurs are playing the Cavs tonight on opening night, huh? LeBron and Kawhi.
Yeah, just like old times, right? It's you're still hanging on to those golden years. But yeah, NBA is in full swing. We will get it going. The Knicks are god awful. Can confirm already. But you know what isn't, of all the bad things about this tournament, and I could go on a lot, the field is actually really good for 78 guys. It's a lot of big names in there.
It's very good. They must have done some under the table payments. I don't know if, like the Japanese just must have paid off some guys to come play this event, because it's way better than like the CIMB would have been. So I was complaining that we had no CIMB this year, but this is a pretty stacked field. So I like to see that.
So did you watch, I guess before we dive in, did you watch any of the skins match?
I watched none of the skins match. Did you?
No, I did not. I caught up on a little, just because I wanted to see maybe a little about the course, but you could not glean much. Of course, Jason Day wins in something that doesn't matter. It's a cool idea. They need to make it better, though. I think that's still a work in progress. We'll get into it, though. So we're we're in Accordia Golf Narashino Country Club, which, if there is one person in the golf industry that knows about this course, it's of course would be you. This is right in your wheelhouse.
Oh man, I've been researching Narashino Accordia for like the last 3 weeks. I got every detail you'd want to know about this track.
And so what say you about this par 70 tree line? That's what I could gather.
That's about it. Yep, you pretty much got all of it. 7,050-yard par 70, bent grass greens, tree line track, 3 par 5s though. So 3 par 5s, 5 par 3s. So we got an extra par 5 for a par 70. That's a little bit interesting. We're not going to make too much of a course that we've never seen before, a course that we don't have any numbers on. I don't like to get into speculating too much, but it is a short par 70, so I think we can take that along with, I watched some of the flyovers. The fairways look pretty narrow, so it looks more like an accuracy course to me. Now, that being said, the top players in the world, it really doesn't matter. I think we really only get into accuracy versus distance with some of the cheaper guys, as course fit is, I think, much more important when you're talking about the cheaper guys, the less skilled golfers. The guys at the top, they're almost all bombers, and it doesn't matter. They can play well anywhere. But just looking at the flowers, looking at the specs of the course, it does look like accuracy will be more important than distance this week. Kind of looked like Firestone to me, where they play the WGC Bridgestone. I guess they don't play that anymore. But yeah, just a lot of, super tree line, kind of narrow fairways. That was a longer track. So it was a little bit shorter. I don't know, rain. So it's going to be kind of playing pretty soft, I guess. But yeah, I'm not going to speculate too much on what it requires, but it does look leaning a little bit more accuracy over distance, I guess.
So I think for me, it's one of these courses where you need to gain off the tee. If you want to do that with accuracy, that's totally fine. If you want to do it with distance, that's fine too. You're going to have some shots. If you're not on the right side, there's overhanging branches. If you're in the woods, that's not good. But someone like Rory, obviously he's good enough. It doesn't really matter. But even some of the more aggressive drivers, I think that's fine. That's one way to do it. But you're not going to be at a disadvantage if you want to hang back, position yourself in the right spot and kind of attack. Now, Josh Culp, who we mentioned, he always does a great job. He described the course, and one thing I saw that I did not know is apparently this. So it's like a 36-hole course. So you can hit it to the wrong green, and if you do that, you get a free drop. I've never heard of something like that before.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if it's every hole, but there's like two greens on either every hole or most of the holes.
Grillo's
I don't know.
definitely going to hit it to the wrong hole by mistake. That's just something he would do.
Yeah, I don't know how the drop works. I feel like play is going to get slowed up a lot when like guys like Day hit it on the wrong green and have to take relief from that. But yeah, kind of the flyovers were interesting because you would see two greens on. I don't know if it was every hole, but a lot of the holes. So that's kind of unique.
I'm sure he won't take the drop. He'll just put it from the other green, Happy Gilmore style, just Drano. So the things last week we talked a lot about, we only had 2 years of course history. We didn't have strokes gain data. We didn't have much. This we now have 0 course history. We certainly do not have strokes gain data. We're really flying blind. Does that make you just kind of on a macro level just kind of try to pick the best golfers available in a sense and not get into the maybe nitty gritty?
Yeah, I mean it's really difficult this week. Like you said, no course history, no strokes gain. Last week there's no strokes gain from that event, which is something I really rely on. Like looking at the previous weeks, off the tee, approach, putting stats, and then we have guys on a long layoff. I mean, there's so many factors this week that yeah, you almost want to play. Obviously, just take the known commodities, the best players. But I think that's going to lead to a lot of ownership kind of congregating in one spot because you have a lot of guys like Xander and other guys, Usti, where it's like we just haven't seen these guys in so long, and it seems like no one's going to play them because everyone's on the same page of like, we're probably going to avoid these guys because it's like we haven't seen them, we don't know much about the course, so yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of with you on that in that regard, but it does feel like ownership's just going to get stacked up on some of these guys that we have seen and have some information on this season.
Definitely. I mean, I think the last, frontier is recent form. We do have that with a lot of guys. Those guys are going to get just a natural boost. And I'm not saying they shouldn't. It's the reality of the situation. So we'll get into it. We've got, the man himself right up top who has the massive recent form. JT just does what he does. Won last week. Fantastic. He leads us off. And then you've got Rory, Decky, Xander, Casey, and Spieth. So we saw Decky and Spieth both play well last week. The other guys were not playing, and we haven't seen them. Do you lean to the recent form, or are you going to go with the best player, who is obviously Rory? I'm not even pulling punches this year. We're not even debating if he's the best player anymore.
I mean, I think I've played JT every time he's teed it up since he came back from that injury. And good things have happened pretty much every week. He's T12 or better in 8 straight events. I think we're looking at the same thing as last week. I think JT is going to be chalky, but I like him over Rory. Rory was very consistent at the end of the year, but I still think in general JT is more consistent than Rory. We know both at the top end of both of their games, they're both amazing. I think they're equally great. I just think JT is more consistent and more well-rounded game. I think at a track that might require not accuracy, but as far as short irons, wedges, putting, I like JT in all those facets over Rory. We know that Rory, amazing driver of the ball, and he's a great player, but I just think maybe at this track it sets up a little bit better for JT. And I just like his consistency. I mean, the ownership's going to be there. I think we're in the same boat as last week with JT and Brooks. But I'm going to play JT again. I played him every week, and he's just been amazing. I think he's the best player in the world, honestly. I think he is. He's so consistent.
Yeah. He's very good, though. He's up there. And he's everything you said, I don't argue. And that is why I think he's going to be the most popular player. I have no problem with that. He has a more well-rounded game. Similar, and it did not work last week. I will take in tournaments like this where I think there's so many unknowns. I lean heavily more on the leverage of ownership. If I can get Rory at a significant discount, I'm willing to go there. I don't love that he hasn't played, and I do think that it definitely ups the risk. There's no doubt about it. I don't worry about the course fit with him. You are right that we've seen Rory a million times. 345 dead center. He has 75 yards left, and then he has 35 feet for par somehow. And you're just like, what did he just do? Can't hit wedges, but the game was. I was so impressed last year. He really rounded into form. Yeah, he didn't win a major, but that's a whole different discussion. So JT, of course, I think all in all is the best play objectively. But when you carry the ownership, I will probably start with Rory. If I had to take, because they're in a different tier. I don't know if you'd agree with that. I think they separate from the rest of the field.
100% easily. Okay. Yeah.
What about Xander? I never get him right, so we'll just get that out of the way. But great driver of the ball. Haven't seen him, and he hasn't been great when we did it last. But I feel like he would set up good for this course.
Yeah, I think he would as well. I don't think anyone's going to play him because he's expensive. 10-4 is expensive, and we haven't seen him. Did he play once since the Tour Championship? I think he played a European Tour event.
He did. He played in the Porsche, and he was just pretty bad.
P46, yeah. Boy, I don't think I'm going to get there because, 10-4 is expensive, and like we said, it's just tough with a guy that we haven't seen. We don't know what to expect. I think maybe from an MME perspective, he might be a guy you want a piece of. But if we're talking about just hand building a couple lineups, it would be hard for me to get to him at that price because he's not cheap.
No, and not at all.
He was inconsistent last year, and he's coming off a long layoff. So it'd be tough for me to get to Xander at 10-6. Same thing with Hideki at 10-7. I know it's like a home game. He was third last week, but boy, it seems like he's pretty far behind JT and Rory, and I know the price indicates that, but still 10-7 is pretty expensive for Hideki. If I was starting lineups, it'd be JT or to be contrarian a little bit Rory. Hideki and Xander just seem a little overpriced to me.
What about Casey? Kind of in the same boat of no real strong take either way?
Yeah, expensive again. He's a super consistent guy. I think we lose a little bit of value with a guy like Casey in a no-cut event. I think some of his value is derived from being so consistent, making so many cuts. And 10-1, yeah, that's pretty steep for him as well. It's hard for me to get by JT and Rory at the top this week.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm in that similar boat. And friend of the show just asked about corollary courses. You mentioned Firestone. I'm going to stick with, I see aspects of Chapultepec in this, the WGC Mexico course, in terms of being tree lined. But do you look to like Heritage or Valspar, or do you not see that?
Maybe a little Valspar. Heritage is tough because that's such a unique course, and it's really like no other course on tour really comes close to that. And maybe we'll see when they play, but that's a super unique course where it's like as short and tight as it gets. Yeah, maybe a little bit more of Valspar, I would say.
I think that's fair. And again, like you said, we just don't know. You need to build. This is a week to really build correlated lineups more than most.
Can we talk about Spieth for a second?
Sure. We don't know what he did, but we actually do.
So we don't have strokes gained stats last week, but we do, and this is like handicapping golf back in the 80s. We have driving accuracy, and we have greens and regulation. And then if you combine those two, you get the old school version of ball striking, which is basically driving accuracy plus GIR. All terrible stats, but this week that's all we have to go off from last week. So we're kind of reading the tea leaves. He was 75th in driving accuracy, and he was 50th in greens and regulation. And when you combine those, he was 71st in the field in that old school ball striking stat out of 76 players. So he basically did Spieth things again last week. So
Yeah, the old putts per greens in regulation is what we have. Again, we can talk about Spieth. It's just he came in 8th, and you're like, wow, impressive considering where he is. That's not really doing much when you're the 6th most expensive guy. It's not killing your lineups, but it feels like he's hitting ceilings unless he improves with this ball striking, and it doesn't seem to be happening. And this course, although we don't know about it, it does seem that if more than last week, you're not going to be able to get away with doing that.
yeah, it seems if off the tee was not important, it would seem like a great Spieth course. Short course, par 70. Um, but yeah, it does seem like the off the tee is going to be problematic, and with all the trees and the narrow fairways, he'll be hacking out of trees left and right this week. It seems like to me. But
Yeah, it's not. The one thing about Juju Island or wherever we were, for the CJ Cup, you really had generous fairways, one of the most generous they see all year. That's not the case here. And again, the tree line nature of this, I don't know if he'll be able to weasel out of trouble, but clearly I'm not going to play him. That's just not going to happen. Moving down, because there's a lot of names. This is a really strong field. I mean, these are guys that at different courses, they could be the top price guy in a field and we wouldn't blink. You got Adam Scott. I'd probably blink there. But other than him, Fleetwood, Reed, Woodland, Hovland, the Big Cat, Tiger is here. Finau, Morikawa. I mean, there is a ton to break down in this range. First question I always like to ask you, do you think starting in this range and taking like 2 or 3 of these guys is viable?
I think it's viable. I think it'll be contrarian. I think most people will start with JT and Rory, but like I said at the top, it's just really hard for me to see past those guys. And it seems like you're giving up a lot of win equity to not only fade JT and Rory, but then to also fade the next like logical winners of as far as win equity goes. Hideki 16-1, Xander 20-1. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, we see different weeks, different strategies work out. The kind of balanced contrarian builds can work out, but I really think you got to have one of these guys at the top, especially in a no-cut event where you're a lot more free to take shots at the low end and play some of these cheap guys because you're getting 4 guaranteed rounds out of them.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Danny Lee JT combo was straight fire.
I wish I had more conviction in my lukewarm touting of Danny Lee.
There was some lukewarm touting of Danny Lee. We're not gonna sugarcoat that. You did mention, and that was, I mean, obviously you needed more than that, but that mindset of you got there a little last week of you pay up for a guy like JT, you balance that out with the most viable, really cheap end, and then you got to figure it out in the mid range. Still a tall task, but that can work. It doesn't always work like that, as you just mentioned. If one of these Fleetwood type guys wins, well, then the structure really becomes different. I'm taking a different approach than most, I think, in this range, because I think people see 7,000 yards and they don't think of this guy. I like Hovland, who is, from what we've seen, the guy is unbelievable ball striking. He can't putt a lick. His short game is not great, but I'm going to continue to buy him in the stack. I think sooner rather than later that's going to regress, and when it does, watch out, because the way he strikes it's up there with the top of the top.
Yeah, I mean, he's already elite off the tee, and the ball striking is great. It's tough for me because he's still, he's priced in with very, very good golfers. I think I'd prefer Fleetwood. Woodland was really good last week. He's another guy who seems to thrive at the shorter courses. So I kind of like that fit for him this week. You wouldn't think so, but he's just a guy that seems to play better at the shorter courses. So I think I'm preferential to Fleetwood and Woodland, who we saw last week. And then at 9,200 Finau, I just really like him. T9 at the Shriners, the ball striking was off the charts, gained 10 strokes just with the ball striking there. If he had anything going with the putter, could have easily won that event. 10th at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. So 2 really, really good starts in a row. I think Finau is probably my favorite play in this range.
He's going to be really popular too, but that's a spot where I'm willing to be, just because someone's popular, you don't just say, oh, he's going to be popular, I got to swerve. Not necessarily at all. And he's a guy that I also will be looking to really target. whether he's my second man in or in a different build. If I go really balanced, maybe he could be third, something like that. But definitely someone to keep an eye on. You're saying he's just playing great, and I know before people even say it, well, he never wins. We said that about a lot of guys. Paul Casey never won, and then he started winning. It changes faster than you think. So,
well, but if you're playing JT, he's going to win. So then,
fair
then you
point.
don't have to worry about it.
Okay, there you go. Look how you did that. What do you have any interest in Tiger?
I guess, should I go with the Firestone corollary core?
I see Firestone, I really do, but Firestone isn't Firestone like crazy long?
Yeah, it's like 7,400 yards. So that, I think visually it reminded me of Firestone, but yeah, this is like a much shorter version of Firestone. So I don't really think that's a great comp.
Didn't Decky have that was the place where Decky like took apart the course, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I have no urge in Tiger at all.
None.
This is a really loaded range. I mean, we named off 4 or 5 guys, and I would play all of those. I'd play Fleetwood, Woodland, Hopland, Finau. I'd play all those guys over Tiger. But I don't think I've ever touted Tiger, to be honest with you.
Not going to start now.
It's going to start now.
Tiger, you played in the Skins. There are so many variables of wait and see. He is the most. It's a part of the show a little earlier than usual where I play Psych Doctor. He, above every other guy in this field, is more concerned about the long-term view. Like it feels like a success for him this week is going out and playing 72 holes and getting back into the flow of things.
Don't get hurt.
Like there are just so many other guys that we've seen that we know more about in the sense of exactly where their game is at. I'm not there because Tiger's Tiger.
Don't you think that and then it goes right in with what you said. It just seems like it's all geared towards Augusta at this
100%.
point. I don't even think the other 3 majors. I just literally think he's going to try and win the Masters as many more times as he can. And that's it.
It's not even that crazy of strategy, honestly, for him. Like, it's hard to back a guy where I just don't know. If he comes out and plays phenomenal and beats me, that is the least of there are so many other guys that I'm more worried about. Honestly, and I'm not going to get to him, but I just want to give him a quick mention. Morikawa he just does his thing kind of. But as you kind of talked about stronger fields, I think he comes in a little more overpriced because when he really was on his run, it was towards some of the weaker that we saw late in the year. You don't have interest at still a pretty pricey range.
Yeah, he was T36 last week. And if we had strokes gain stats from last week, I would be a lot more interested to see how he played, how he got to that T36. I mean, if it was great ball striking, terrible putting, maybe have some interest. But it's hard to tell what he did. So, yeah, no Morikawa. I think this could be a great course for Fitz, but he just seems a little expensive at $9K. The form, it's been kind of hit or miss for him, but he has 3 seconds and a fourth in his last 10 starts. And a lot of those were in kind of weaker fields on the European Tour. But I think a good course fit for him and a guy who's been really close quite a few times in his last 10 starts. But it's just $9K seems expensive to me for him.
It is. He's getting it's a weird time of the year because you've got Fitz, who's a lot of times like $11K over in Europe coming over, and his price really, I feel like, carried over to an extent. Whereas when we see him for an extended period on the PGA Tour, he's in that mid 7K range, 14K fantasy draft style. Like, I'm not really there. You've got guys like Jason Day, Sungjae Im, Benny On, who was good last week. There's too many other guys, and now we can get to this mid range because I want to mention Usti, Leishman. This is where it starts to get already dicey. What do you make of what could easily be your third man in on what is going to be a pretty common build?
I mean, I have some interest in Day at 8,900. The fact that he won the Skins game is totally irrelevant, and I'm kind of annoyed that he did win. I don't think it's going to bring a lot of ownership, but I think his name is out there. It'll add a little more intrigue into people looking to play Day. But he was hung around the top of the leaderboard for the first couple. rounds. And I think this is a great format for him, unlike a guy like Casey, who is super consistent and is priced up. Days priced down a little bit. He's very inconsistent, but we know the top level of his game, he's really good. So a no cut event, I think, is perfect for a guy like him, where you have consistency, or at least worried about some consistency with. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if winning the skins game is going to bring ownership. I feel like some people make something of that. I'm making nothing of it, but I'm just kind of intrigued by him. Yeah, going down. I don't know. Usti is another guy. We'll put him in the same boat as Xander. Could be a great play, but we just haven't seen him since the Tour Championship. We don't know what's going on with him. But I think ownership will be super low. He seems like a great GPP play, but it's just hard. He's another guy it's hard to get to if you're building a couple lineups by hand. It's just, it's a shot in the dark, but, he played really well, very consistent at the end of last year. Could be a good course fit, but a lot of unknowns going on with him.
That's really it. I mean, we just don't know. Taking his long-term profile of his game, I think this course is fantastic for him, because when he gets going, I mean, that guy has the smoothest swing around. It's just a clinic. Can't really putt, and that can be an issue, but, you can't have it all. Going back to Day for a second, though, even if you just look at the scorecard, he was racking up birdies and making bogeys all over the place. He can putt. He's a great, great scrambler historically. We will see if that comes back, but this is the perfect format for him, because, he started right out of the gate with the 66. There's going to be a lot of tournaments through the year, or a handful, where that 66 comes on Saturday or Sunday, but he might not be around in a traditional cut. He can, these type of guys, they can get themselves back in a tournament with holes that they wouldn't have had in a traditional stroke play event with a full field. So I definitely see that. I do want to talk about Sergio real quick. He was awful last week. It didn't work. From what I can gather, and this isn't surprising, he didn't strike it great, but he struck it okay. He was 71st in putts per green in regulation, so that's not good, obviously. I'm willing to go back because, again, I think this course is fine for him. He can lean on that ball striking. I do like that he played, at least, and I think the ownership that he did get last week to an extent will be dissipated just because
no one will be going back to.
No one goes back, and these two courses to me couldn't be further from, in terms of similarity. I don't see any carryover.
Yeah, I played some Sergio last week. Not good. No. I don't know if I can go. But I'm one of those the donkeys that it's just like, nope, we're done. And then this is the week where he's like T4.
To me, it's more situational in the sense we talked about already. We don't have a lot to go off of, so I feel like people are just going to look like, oh, this guy played good last week. He's playing great. I'm going to play him again. And it's like, wait, yes, to an extent, but these courses are just different. It's like Spieth to me. I think that is, I mean, he's always a trap, but even more so this week. Like you look, 8th place, he's getting it together. No, he just had a course last week that forgave a lot of his errant drives. Like if he does that here, it's not going to work. It's just not.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's really hard because it's all we have to go off.
Yep.
Last week is finishing position. But like you said, the courses are so different. Those high finishes from last week, they're going to increase in price, increase in ownership, not a lot of meaning. So there's a lot of downsides is basically just looking and seeing how players finished last week and kind of going from there, because it's bringing increased price, increased ownership, and God knows if it even means anything.
It's such a delicate balance too, because to talk out of both sides of my mouth, I also have no interest in taking 6 guys that I haven't seen in 2 months. That doesn't seem like the optimal move either,
Oh, I'm with you. This is a tough week. This is probably going to be the toughest week of the year, I think, just with the unknown courses, guys off layoffs, no strokes gained.
Yeah.
Boy, talk to me about Hadwin, because I feel like he's going to be the terrible chalk play of the week.
He's tricky. I mean, so he even has, it's a totally different kind of course, not course history, recent form. He was just on fire during swing season. So we certainly can see, the strokes gain data, but he did not play last week unless I'm missing something. I do not believe he was in the field. Now, the irons have been on fire. Like, there's no doubt. The off the tee, not great. We know he's a good putter, and he's been putting lights out, so that's not a huge surprise. I agree with you, though. I have a feeling that kind of, is going to grab some people's attention. I think an interesting pivot actually is Shane Lowry, who's right below him. Again, a guy that's been doing, he's been playing over in Europe, middling results, some good, some bad. Last time we saw him, he got cut in Italy, but this is someone, again, you want to mention Bridgestone, you want to mention non-cut. I think his game could be suited to that, and I do not think people are going to have him on the mind at all.
Is he over the Open Championship drinking binge yet?
Yeah, he still could be hungover. What's he going on, 3 months here? But I don't know. I mean, I do think, not that we said Heritage, but he's had a real good finish at Heritage. He can do it in a lot of different ways, and this is someone that, again, if you want to take the Bridgestone for what it's worth, that was his breakthrough win before the Open. I don't mind that, and in this range, I don't really see a ton that stands out outside of Hadwin.
Yeah, Hadwin is going to have all people looking at finishes, people looking at stats. They're all going to go to Hadwin because not only was he fourth at the Shriners, second at the Safeway, but I mean the ball striking stats were off the charts too. So anything you're looking at, either of those, he's just going to stick out like a sore thumb. But my thing is, I just don't think he's the caliber of player when you talk about guys like Sergio at 8,300, Usti at 84, Leishman at 85. I think he's priced up a little bit based off of those finishes, and he's not he just doesn't seem like a guy that's taking it to the next level. It's kind of your point chasey a little bit to, you're just chasing these good finishes. And I don't know if he's quite the quality of golfer as some of these other guys in this range. So I think I'm off a Hadwin, even though he has two really good finishes, two really good ball striking performances. I think the other guys in this range are just more quality golfer than he is.
What about Ryan Moore, who it's not to the same caliber of finishes, but he's been playing well. We know he's a shorter hitter, like shorter irons as well. Do you have interest there? Just now we dip into the true mid-range.
Yeah, I actually love Ryan Moore this week. 8th last week, so he was good. 13th at the Shriners, where he gained 3.8 with the ball striking. So that was really good finish, good ball striking. Miscut at the Safeway, but he lost 2.7 strokes putting that week. So a lot of that was just based off the poor putting. And like you said, this guy, if you look at where he's played well, where he's won, almost all short courses, Wyndham, Shriners, John Deere, all places like this, CIMB, all super short tracks. The guy really, he has an MO of like where he plays well. He's in the same boat as guys like Russell Knox, guys like Kevin Kisner. It just seems like every time he plays well, it's at a certain type of track. And I like him. Like you said, the numbers are decent, not jumping off the page. Yeah, I really like Moore at 7,800.
What about, you just mentioned him? I got to mention Kevin Kisner.
I agree. The track, it seems like it's perfect for him, but he's another one. You're rolling the dice because we haven't seen him since the Tour Championship, so it's really tough.
It's true. So my article, which is posted on the site, feel free to check it out. He's in there, and I talk about that exact point where this is it speaks right to Kevin Kisner's game. I love the way he was playing towards the end of the year, but it's a legit couple-month layoff. How he responds to that, I have no idea. So you are incurring extra risk that you don't have with a guy like Ryan Moore. So take that for what it's worth. Before we dive into the Grillo situation, I just want to say real quick, chat, we love doing the show. We love keeping it free. If you can hit the like button, obviously subscribe to the channel, but hit that like button. It really does help us out, helps keep the show free and putting us in front of the paywall. So we do appreciate that. Obviously, we really started to go in on Grillo about how he's just dust. And he started to show some life last week. But then he ended 26th. Honestly, it wasn't even that good. And in our defense, in a sense, I think that speaks to it. Felt like Grillo was doing things, and he came in the middle of the pack when it was all said and done.
But here's the thing. You know how I talked about driving accuracy, greens and regulation, and old school ball striking? I wish I would have never looked at these numbers and even paid attention to him.
I haven't seen his, so I'm interested to hear this.
6th in driving accuracy, 2nd in greens and regulation, led the field in that combination of ball striking.
Where was the putting? He was probably behind the guys that
I didn't even look at the putts per green in regulation. It's probably like 3.5 or something putts per green in regulation.
I'm going to videotape here. Emilio scorecard. I'm gonna figure this out on the show because it's that disturbing. I'm sure. While I'm doing that though, I mean, did you get suckered right back in with that?
Yeah, I never left. I mean,
You never
I
left.
played
That's
him
also
last
a fair
week. I was
point.
riding high for 2 rounds, and then, like you said, he just crashed and burned on the weekend.
Oh, so that's the underrated part of, or I guess I don't know if underrated's the right word, but I can speak to him at the Northern Trust where he murdered me for forever. That will be on the mantle. He's also a god awful scrambler. It just gets overshadowed because he can't putt. So he was 73rd in scrambling last week. That probably contributed 51st in putts per GIR. Boy, oh boy, but you know
He's
he's
a he's a sprinkle. We'll just sprinkle him this week.
touch. I prefer Kisner. I'll say that much. And you know who I'm going to hang on? I talked about Sergio. Talk about a price drop. I know, again, he looked awful. He certainly did not have it last week in any facet. I'm going right back to Matthew Wolff at 7,200. I don't care. I will take the talent.
You're dying on this off the tee hill.
I am. So
if you're right, you're going to be very right this week.
That is my whole plan in a tournament like this. If I'm right, I really think that the way I'm building my lineups it'll be right. And if I am wrong, I will get coffined. And that's the way I want it.
Town, it's going to be quadruple coffins for Ben this week.
It'll be the donation cup will be out in full force next week. But I think that's what you have to do. I'm not saying you have to do it with off the tee, but I do think you have to do it with something this week. You need to try to say, I think the course is going to play like this. And now I'm going to run my numbers, and this is how I'm going to build my lineups. Because if you just start going in with no plan and you're cherry picking guys, that's a lotto ticket. Can it work? Of course, but it's not the smart way to build your lineups.
I'm with you. I agree. Correlated teams, I feel like you were one of the first people to kind of coin that for golf. I mean, we use correlation in football, other sports, but golf, we never really used to do that. And it's kind of one of the things that you've taught me. If you're going to be right, you're going to be real right.
Corey Connors, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, he's good every week though. He's good every single week. I don't get it. No, I don't know. People just don't like him. His price never changes. Aside from one miscut, I mean, he ended the season very strong. He was good last week again. He was 12th last week. That's coming off a 13th at the Safeway where he basically lit the course on fire with his ball striking. I mean, I'm going to keep playing him. I joke about Grillo. Grillo is not good. I really think Connors is good, and he's been good. He was good the last 4 or 5 events of last year. He started off on the same pace this year, and the price just never changes.
It really doesn't. It really, really doesn't. I will give him that. He can't putt, but the way he strikes it, he's overcoming that. And as long as he's priced where he is, you can live with these finishes. You certainly can live with them.
He's so good with the irons and the ball striking. Where like Grillo will hit it to like 8 feet and miss. Connors will hit it to just tap in. It's like he'll just kick in a couple birdies because he's that much better than Grillo with the irons. No, you just go play Matthew Wolff. I don't care.
No, I'm playing Matthew Wolff. I'm not worried about that. I think Corey Connors is a fine play though. Again, and it's going to depend on my teams. Like if I start a team with like Patrick Reed and those type of guys and Day, is Corey Connors going to be on that team? Certainly not. I would much rather go to someone, like maybe like a Rory Sabatini in that range or something different in terms of maybe a little craftier around the greens. I'm not saying I'm doing that, just as an example. Now we get to the low, we're kind of in the next tier. I think that Ryan Palmer is also somewhat interesting. He's another guy. He was okay last week. And just his game, when I kind of conceptually visualize this course, I do worry a little about the scrambling if that comes into play. But if it doesn't, I think he could really dial it in, with some of these shorter irons on a place like this.
Yeah, I'm with you. He was T12. That was good last week. He's another guy. Put him in the same boat as Day. is a guy who I think the no-cut event, he gains value here because he's an inconsistent guy. You're not really sure what you're going to get from him from week to week. So I think he gains value in an event like this. 6,900, good price. And he was good at the Shriners, T37, but the ball striking was good, plus 5.9. That's two really good events in a row. I'd like to start a new segment.
Okay, please.
You ready? So it's going to be, I'm going to call it the Kelly Craft Fish Play of the Week.
Okay.
And the criteria for this is a not good player who played really well last week, and nobody played him, and then I think people are going to play him.
Oh, the Danny Lee?
Danny Lee, exactly.
Yes,
worst play on the board. So he is the Kelly Craft Fish Play of the Week this week.
So just to clarify the segment, normally, folks, the Kelly Craft Fish Play of the Week also has course history. If we had Danny Lee coming in like 7th at this course with 1 year of sample size, he would get the full award. But we have to do what we're
right. We have no course history, so we gotta
work with us.
Work with that. But
and I concur 100%. He is the easiest fade of the week. Don't chase it. Don't.
If you were one of the 2% or whatever that played him last week, you're awesome, and take that money and run. But people that make money playing DFS are not playing Danny Lee this week.
No. And it's golf. Crazy stuff happens. Could he go on another run? Of course. But the only reason you're going to play Danny Lee this week is because he played great last week. And you just ask yourself, does that mean that he is way more likely to play great this week? To me, the answer would be no. And there's so many other guys right around him. I mentioned Ryan Palmer. Guys like Fratelli got a massive price discount. Bubba is down there. I don't really have interest in Bubba just because he's not playing well. But there's just so many other names. I'll just rattle a couple off and I'll pass it to you. HV3 is down here. Poston, Scott Piercy, Berger. Don't sleep on him. What are you making this lower? This is probably going to be your last man in.
Yeah, there's options here. Bubba, intriguing because of the format, but I don't know. Not like you said, not playing well. Course fit, probably not great. What about Answer at 6,700? Not good form, but I mean, he was really good last year. This seems like a super buy low spot, and he's a good off the tee guy. Straight, he doesn't. If you just looked at him, you wouldn't think that his strength would be off the tee, but it is. And I think this is kind of a interesting spot. He played last week not well. I don't know. He just kind of stuck out as a guy who seemed really cheap. The form not really good though. Boy, I put the kibosh on Wyndham Clark when you mentioned him last week.
Chad is just talking about Wyndham Clark. I hear you, man, because Wyndham Clark defies logic. It's similar to Spieth, except he's very cheap, so he can get away with it more. When you look at how he does things, it doesn't add up. And you look at Wyndham Clark and you're just like, oh, guy's playing, and then boom, comes an 8th last week. I'm not there. I'm going to let other people maybe chase that. I think I'd rather go to a guy like JT Poston, who just is a well-rounded game. We certainly saw him, step forward. He won at Wyndham. Not great. He missed the cut at the Shriners, but he was very good at Sanderson Farms. And I just like the well-rounded game. I think that can translate at a lot of places.
Yeah, for sure. It gets interesting down here.
Oh, it's bad.
So, all right, I got a name for you here. This is kind of like Danny Lee from last week. Your boy CT Pan.
Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. CT Pan, 6,200. I had him circled, and I rarely circle people on my little list here.
So he is another guy who has a specific type of course that he plays well at. So if you go to the official world golf ranking and you scroll down, it says best performances, and it's based on like how many points, official world golf ranking points they won in their career. So it'll go back as long as they've been playing professional golf. So number 1 is the win at RBC Heritage. Number 2 was a T2 at Farmers. Now that's a long track. Doesn't prove much for us. But then we have Colonial, Wyndham, Travelers. I mean, and then it's, some Corn Ferry stuff, and then it goes on to the RSM Classic. I mean, so you take Heritage, Wyndham, Travelers, Colonial. I mean, that's like the holy trinity of short hitter courses. I think this should set up really well for him. He played last week, not well. Uh, 2 missed cuts in the swing season, but the ball striking was fine. Plus 1.9 at Shriners, and he was awful with the putter. He was minus 3.3. And then he lost 2.7 with the putter at Safeway. So, I mean, like a dart throw, I like Pan just based on course fit and the fact that really a lot of the struggles this year have been with the putter.
And that's atypical. He's someone I know we don't have a ton, but I don't regard him as a bad putter. I don't know if you do, but like that doesn't seem like the super weak club where it's a major problem. There's a couple of things. I like it in the sense he's played over here, not at this course, of course, but he played CIMB plenty, played the CJ Cup a couple years. The length is not going to be an issue. The price is really good. I'm not going to be throwing him, again, off the tee is not great. He needs to improve that. But if he can get away with that, maybe he clubs down, maybe he takes some of the risk off the bag. I think the rest of his game is suited at 6,200. There's nobody down here. Like Vaughn Taylor is 61, Merritt is 61. You have a bunch. Adam Long, I guess, is someone that you've mentioned in recent weeks, but he was not great last week. Not that I take a ton from that, but I don't really see a ton of resistance in terms of going elsewhere if you need to pay down.
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to play Pan.
No, that's the other thing. Like
virtually unowned down here. Yeah, I like that. I mean, if you're going to take a shot with somebody, you might as well take a shot with somebody that nobody's going to be on. And like Danny Lee last week, a guy that's inconsistent but is proven. We've seen him contend and win multiple times on tour the last couple years, and this is a great course fit for him. Probably even better than Danny Lee, who I don't really even know what his course fit is, but I think this is really
he doesn't have a course fit.
Yeah, he doesn't. He really doesn't.
No, he just comes out of nowhere, random.
Yeah, so I like that. I'll go back to Adam Long. He was not good, but man, he was just so good in the 3 starts in the fall series, on the swing series, T23, T23, T14, where the ball striking was super, super good. Not great last week, but I'm not going to jump off after one poor outing, especially in a no-cut event. So I'll go back to Long. The price is just really good, and hope that he can bounce back from the T46, which wasn't great last week. But I do like Adam Long again this week.
It's going to depend, on lineup construction and tonight, just because this locks at, I think 6 Eastern tomorrow night. So make sure you have those lineups in. Our normal Wednesday show is tonight, so me and Jason Rosden will be answering questions, talking lineup construction at 8 o'clock Eastern. So make sure you stop back for that. I'm going to have a lot more information in terms of how I want to construct up top. If I do, say I go really aggressive, where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take Rory and Xander. Anchoring with one of these guys is going to be necessary. So that is why you have to look down here. If you don't do that, you don't have to go down here. So just keep that in mind. Do you have, I know I mentioned him earlier, do you have any opinion on Berger, or are you just not going to do it?
No, I don't think I can go there with him.
That's fair. Oh, boy, there's really not much down here. I looked at Keegan, it's just been so bad.
Yeah, the price was interesting to me, but he hasn't been good, and the ball striking has not been good either, that's what's very concerning to me.
I don't see a ton. Other than that, just like last week, we have a handful of guys who play primarily on the Asian tours. I'm not going to be messing around with them. What we saw last week is what I say every time. A couple of them hung in for 36 holes, and then you look and they come in, even the top end come in like 27th. So it's like if you luck box that, more power to you, but more often than not, it's just unnecessary.
Yeah, I would say I'm staying away from those guys. So I hear my daughter upstairs screaming for me here, so we might have to.
Well, we can wrap this up because,
sorry.
like I said, no, go on. We'll get out of here because, like I said, tonight at 8 o'clock, we're going to be breaking it all down. And I think we really covered it. A 78-man field like this, I think the important thing is just keep in mind, non-cut, new course, and go from there. And come back tonight for any questions. Do you have any final thoughts before we kind of get on out of here?
No, just roll with JT, and he's going back to back, and
with Rory is what you meant to say. But I think we both agree you probably, if you're making a ton of lineups, you'll mix it up, but I think it's important to have one of them. They're just so much better than the rest of the field.
Yes, all the win equity is at the top this week. So one of those two guys, it's hard to fade both of them, I think.
Well said. So as we say, Chad, thanks for hanging out with us. Hit the like button. If you have any questions, you can find us on Twitter. And if you have any questions, again, 8 o'clock tonight, me and Jason Roslin will be answering your questions, talking lineup construction for the Zozo Championship, the first ever show on that. So we're going to get on out of here. We'll let Tim go handle the household. I'll get back to...
Sorry, this is like screaming bloody murder.
Well, you never know. The Zozo Championship brings it out. But on that note, everyone, good luck. We will see you later tonight, and then we will certainly see you back here next week. Take care.